on the fruit, you can get it out the basket before it rotting another one. Mama ain't raised no motherfucking fool, and Papa ain't raised no punks. This motherfucker, the GDs kicked in the door. They didn't let us in that motherfucker. They didn't want us in there. They didn't want us figuring out their motherfucking game plan, but they fucked around. And my motherfucking chief told me, we brain banging now, banging with the brain, fuck the game. Right? So the brain went in the lab, seen what they was working with, shuffled it up, put it on the scale, measured it out, and the shit didn't add up correct. They ain't us and we ain't them. Some of them look like us and some of them don't. They call blackamoors and Tawny Moors. Right? They believe in big eyes and little U's, what they call royal hierarchy. We believe in no respecter of persons, no big eyes, no little U's. We got 3 kings because the land was divided by the matriarchs into 3 kingdoms. And the 3 kingdoms was the 3 confederations. And the 3 confederations broke the land up amongst 2 high chiefs. And the 2 high chiefs was the ones that was to come and reestablish the order on the land if any time somebody dishonored the chiefs. All they had to do was knock for the gods. And when the gods come back, they're going to look just like you. Just like me. Just like us. And they going to mistake us for being the go along, the get along ass Negroes of the past because we got a good, kind heart. But we ain't them and they ain't us. We ain't making our fathers and our forefathers mistakes this time. Motherfuckers, your time is up and your exit is motherfucking wide open. You better get to kicking with the heels motherfucking moving like a scalded ape. Because you got a sick ape on your ass. And that's a soldier and Illuminati are present everywhere. You can't run, you can't hide. You done revealed yourself. They always reveal themselves by causing disruption in family business of the righteous. So go back to the motherfucking chief. Go back and find out what they gave the Aztec high chief. You'll know the tools of division and the devices that they use to conquer the people of the land. We ain't falling for that shit this time. So the next one of the motherfuckers tell you to take
was built a couple thousand years after that, maybe about 8,000 years, which would roughly date them to about maybe 30,000 years ago. But the best judge of when they was built is the reverse precession from the Orion star constellation, right? When you back it up, about 10,500 years ago is when it was activated, because that's when that alignment took place right before the Great Vermanus Wars that end up putting us in a very adverse Earth environment, which goes back to that artificially induced ice age, which this is why they find around the same strata when you dig in archaeology, anthropology, you can date by the strata of Earth, which is the layers that the Earth sediment settles, and then the next layer, then the next layer. And roughly around the same time, not long after the original construction of the pyramids, it broke out into the war. The reason the pyramids was built over there in Giza and that the Nile was rerouted was because of what was going on in the Persian Peninsula, going up into what we call today the Middle East.
What was going on? What was going on in the Middle East that they had to reroute the Nile? That sounds like some hellish shit going on over there, right?
Well, the Nile used to feed a lush forest that is now desert. We call it the Great Sahara. The rerouting of the Nile was an engineering project done by the temple priests of Tahuti. And they rerouted it because they needed to fill in the crater from a sizable blast. Some say a great meteor, but it was more like a nuclear bomb that was detonated in the West Nile, the Mediterranean, that created that crater. But it wasn't no bomb like we have today. Even the Moab bomb is minuscule in proportions to the one that left the crater.
Mm-hmm. Now, how much nuclear activity? You talking about bombs? Everybody's familiar with the nuclear bomb and World War II. How much nuclear activity we had in this pre-Adamite times, Rod?
Well, we used to play with atoms like children play with toys in our God form before we lost our ability to understand how the atom worked going through these wars. And this nuclear usage that we see today, that's childish to the Atlanteans because it's too much risk of what's called a nuclear spill when the rods get overheat and then they start to leach the radiation out into the reactor, and then it started to go from there into the local environment. There was a nuclear power plant on the west coast of Africa in a concentric city. They believe it was Atlantis, but Atlantis was over here. And they still have the remnants of that ancient reactor, and it's still radioactive.
What they're doing with CERN, Rod, is this something that we've done in the past, but on a bigger level? Because we look at CERN. Okay.
CERN not supposed to be active. If anybody activating CERN right now, they're an enemy to Earth. Damn. That's just flat out the gate. They might tell you it's activated, but at the close of the age, until the final restoration of the matriarchy, none of those high science applications are allowed to be used, because the last time that led to the wars, they used the Stargate portal, and they used the collider type. It wasn't called a collider back then, but that's what they call CERN. It's a hadron collider where you smash atoms. You don't need that to smash atoms. But what they were doing was they was using that absolute vacuum and the exploding of a single atom to open up a gateway. These gateways allow people to walk through a doorway like energy field and be from one reality in a whole different reality. CERN was once, it was a collider similar to CERN, where they opened a portal between the third and fourth dimensions and ignited this massive explosion and closed the portal. The side effect was the fourth dimension and the third dimension got trapped within each other. This formed an infinity loop. And the only time that you have an opportunity to exit the infinity loop is at the close of the age, when you align with something called a Muhurta. This is the opening between third and fourth dimension. If you want to ascend to the fifth, you have to flip the consciousness at that point. So it will be work being done leading up to the Muhurta, and then the resolution starts coming in on the other side as the new age begins to take hold, and it begin to wake all of the people up from their slumber. And like all this stuff I'm talking, it's going to be people make me sound like a toddler having a conversation.
Yeah, I remember you in the beginning of this year, you set the year off. We had a viral video of you talking about the Muhurta and ushering the golden age. My question would be, when you hear about the precession of the equinoxes and the different cycles that happen within that, my question would be, does a flood happen? Does a great flood usually happen before a golden age? So the world is so chaotic, it's so demonic, Rod, that in order to usher in the golden age, one of the best things to do is to usher in a flood, get rid of all the evil, because ain't no change in the system and then you can have a golden age. Is that how this happens, Rod, or not?
No, it don't happen like that.
Okay.
But what does happen is as the women wake up and start taking control of their physical self,
Mm-hmm.
and they start tuning in to their mitochondrial frequency. You have daughters of the water. We call them mermaids today, which is an exaggeration of what they were. Then you have the water, they call water sprites. Then you have the sisters of the air. They commonly call them sirens because of their vocal range. But that's all to demonize the divine feminine. Then you have the ones that's born fire, the little spitfires or fire sprites. And these is also reflective of the energy that they harnessing. Then you have the ones that we call the earth movers. You know that we call the ones earth movers, what they used to call earth movers back in the day. We call them the ones with the dunkadunk. They call earth movers. And they got these dances. You see some of the elder women in Africa and Brazil doing these dances in the public, and then people posting them on TikTok. That's because they do everything in the open so you can see it. But the ones who we call earth movers shaking their rumps cause earthquakes. Then as the ones wake up that's from the water energies, then they don't cause earthquakes. They cause massive rainstorms, opening up of what's called atmospheric rivers. They also, all this is just from them becoming conscious of their God form. Before they get the self-control of the God form, the chaos generates from the confusion of the awareness breaking through the cognitive dissonance. So you see the forest fires, and then they be like, I seen a face in the fire. Yep, you sure did. And that sister probably was somewhere mad as hell because her child got molested somewhere, and you seeing her face in the fire because she is the fire sprite that's burning something up. She burning this shit down. The earth movers is causing earthquakes. We call it the sway of the matriarch, where they rump shake. You gotta remember, the uterus is a musical instrument and it's directly tied to prime creator. That's why the only way you can get in and out of earth as a living soul is you have to come through a uterus, through a womb, through the portal of life.
Yeah, okay. Let me ask you, this might be a little off topic, but you brought up the womb, and it just made me think about fibroids, and I'm thinking about the divine feminine and how many sisters suffer from fibroids. Is what the hell's happening, I guess spiritually or whatever, for so many feminine women on the planet, the divine feminine, to have this fibroid issue in the age that we are in, right? What's going on with that?
Well, you got a series of factors. The first thing, that a woman that's in tune with herself, her pH balance is going to be always perfect in the uterus, which is sickness and illness can't exist in that condition. But the fibroids is the side effect of birth control pills, other birth control methods, and it's also in the diet. They put chemicals in the foods that irritate the lining of the uterus, and what we seeing is fibroids is a lot of the women's using a reproductive capability to trap the toxins. And as they try to keep it under wraps, the fibroid gets bigger, right? A lot of this stuff could be cleared up with a hyperbaric chamber and yoni magic.
Yeah, I remember Bobby Hemmings said way back in the day that it was the perms the sister was putting in their hair, and that when a person died and they did autopsy, there was crazy shit under the skull from years of perming, a person perming their hair.
But you got to remember, the first perms was called a conch. It was a mixture
Yeah.
of what we call lye and mashed potatoes. The stuff they call in the perm now is a laboratory concoction of chemicals you can't even pronounce. It's not the same. The Indians was conquered long before Columbus came.
Damn. Damn, yeah. They was conquering that long ago, right?
Yeah, that's why you got a lot of those very, very, very dark natives, and their hair is wavy to straight.
Right.
Some of them would conk their hair because they looked at like this, but the rest of their clan might have hair like Chief Warhorse.
Right.
So they came up with the conk as a way to, if I'm gonna be in this tribe, because we get born across tribes. And when this happens, we either find our way back to our tribe or we try to fit in best as possible with the tribe we in. Right? They talk about sisters wearing weaves like she can't be conscious and wear weaves and wigs, but we fail to recall that all of the ancients was where wigs came from. They got a wig museum from Kemet, right? The women over here, they used to weave the silk of the corn into their hair to streak it gold, right? We got a lot of stuff that's from the culture, from ancient culture, been villainized by us trying to wake up and remember what culture we had. Some of us come from a culture where the matriarch who has the longest hair, that's the big mama. But that's not all clans. You got other clans where the lady that give you the blanket, that's the one that gives you the approval to be an adult or whatever the occasion she's giving you the blanket, but that was their big mama. Then you had the other tribes, the ones that the slipper tribes, they give you slippers because they blessing everywhere you walk with the act of blessing you with footwear. All them ancient practices, now we looking at stuff that we did back then, we spending excessive amounts of money on shoes, but we don't know what our obsession with shoes is because we don't see it as an obsession. We see it as just, we like some nice shoes, but this is a cultural phenomenon to the Americas. This is the different types of moccasins that we used to make. And when the settlers came, they wore something called buckle bottoms. They had big buckle on the front top of the shoe, and they had a clunky high heel.
Right.
Because they come over there from walking around palaces with no bathrooms. They just drop it where they at.
Right.
And it wasn't just the pale face doing it, but they tell it to us like it was.
Yeah. Wow. Hey, Rod, I'm curious. Did you see, we're talking about ancient history today and pre-Adamite, the pre-Adamite world and the world before this so-called, that we hear about the 6,000 years and the world existed for only 6,000 years. And we're talking about the world before then. And Terrence Howard was on Joe Rogan the other day.
And he blew a spot up with that.
Oh man, what you thought about that, man? And what Terrence Howard is saying, man? It's beautiful to see this level of consciousness go into the world, into the millions, man. It's a beautiful thing to see, man. It's funny, right before you answer that about Terrence Howard, right before this show, I was on TikTok and I was just looking up some stuff on the pre-Adamite, and just mad Billy Carson videos came up, your videos came up. I was like, oh shit, these the brothers on my channel. And it was just a good thing to see. I'm like, Rod Hayes, Billy Hayes, Rod Hayes, Billy Carson. I'm like, oh, this is a good thing to see. So it's dope to see y'all brothers everywhere out there representing with the knowledge. But tell me what's your thoughts on what Terrence Howard was kicking on Joe Rogan?
It's funny you would bring Billy Carson up because I was scrolling on my messages. Somebody sent me in my inbox that Terrence Howard's science was confirmed by Billy Carson.
Yeah, I seen that video. Yeah.
Look,
He
so
mentioned Terrence Howard mentioned Billy Carson too in the video. He mentioned him too. So I know he
watch
watched
this.
it.
Remember, I told you in multiple past lives, Billy Carson was my big brother who turned me on to science.
You said that, yeah. You
Yeah.
said that.
What Clarence Howard talking about is the stuff that was a basic conversation between brothers a long time ago, but the science level is higher than most people have broke through yet. So you telling them old science, but it sounds new,
Right.
right? And so um, Billy is like when he said that we don't know what race nobody was. It's not that we don't know what race they was. We wasn't shades of brown. Right? When we talk about pre-atomic history, we weren't shades of brown like we are now. From the darkest of chocolates to the lightest of vanillas, we were not those shades because our chemical composition was altered by Earth being shifted from its original orbit of the sun. Right? When that happened, that changed the biochemistry, it's changed the atmosphere structure, and this one of the side effects is the magnesium in the biology was replaced with copper and iron. Copper and magnesium together gives you a shade of green to baby blue hue. Whereas now with the iron being the base, then now we rusting instead of oxidizing. And so the rust is giving us these shades of brown interacting with our melanocytes. But before, just like the trees, our blood would look like chlorophyll. Right? It don't look like chlorophyll no more because the biology of the organisms that pump the blood has changed. But there's key components in the blood like the plasma. The plasma has never changed. That's the carrier of the cells.